Introduction. Starting line Times Square. New York to Paris. 22,000 miles. No roads. No maps. Gasoline not guaranteed. Good luck. On a cold February morning in 1908, those words hung in the air over a crowd of 250,000 people. 6 cars sat idling in the middle of Manhattan. They weren't just racing to the next town. They were trying to drive across the entire world. They had to go through the deep snow of the Arctic, the mud of Russia, and the deserts of the West. There were no highways. There were barely even dirt paths. Most people in the crowd thought these men were crazy. They thought the machines would break, the men would quit, or the mud would swallow them whole. George Schuster was the lead driver for the American team. He sat behind the wheel of a Thomas Flyer. It was a beast of a car, 60 horsepower, which was huge for the time. It was built for speed. It was built for power. But as George looked at the thousands of miles of empty, broken land ahead of him, he knew something that the other drivers didn't. He knew that raw speed was actually his biggest danger. If he drove as fast as the engine allowed, he would hit a hidden rock and snap an axle. If he just tried harder to go fast, he would run out of fuel in the middle of a wasteland. To win this race, George didn't need a faster car. He needed a better way to navigate. He needed a system to fix things when they broke. He needed a way to keep his eyes on the horizon while his wheels were stuck in 3 feet of muck. George Schuster didn't win because he had the best engine. He won because he became the best mechanic and the best navigator. He learned how to handle a powerful machine in a world that wasn't built for it. If you are reading this, you probably feel like you are driving a Thomas Flyer. You have a 60 horsepower brain. You are smart. You are creative. You have a high energy engine that can do amazing things when it's firing on all cylinders. But you are trying to drive that engine through a world that feels like a never-ending mud pit. The world expects you to be a farmer, someone who can sit still, follow a slow, steady schedule, and never miss a tiny detail. But your brain was built to be a hunter. You are wired for the chase, for the crisis, and for the big, exciting idea. Because your engine doesn't match the road of modern life, you feel like you are constantly breaking down. You feel like you are failing the people you love. You feel like you are an underachiever, even though you know you have more potential than anyone else in the room. This is the reality of being a man with ADHD. It is not a deficit of attention. You have plenty of attention. Your problem is that you can't always point it where you want it to go. You have a Ferrari engine, but you were born with bicycle brakes. The silence of the office. Mark Henderson sat at his desk. It was 7:30 p.m. The office was mostly dark, except for the blue glow of his computer monitor and the hum of the air conditioner. Outside, the Seattle rain was tapping against the glass. Mark was 38 years old. He was a senior project manager for a big tech company. On paper, he was a success. He made good money. He had a beautiful wife, Sarah, and 2 kids who thought he was a superhero. But in this moment, Mark felt like a fraud. He was staring at a spreadsheet. He had been staring at the same 3 rows for 45 minutes. He wasn't working. He was stuck. He had spent the last 3 hours obsessing over the font size and the color coding of a report that wasn't even due for 2 days. He had hyper-focused on a tiny, meaningless detail while the rest of his life drifted away. His phone buzzed on the desk. He didn't want to look at it. He knew what it was. He picked it up anyway. It was a text from Sarah. "We're home." Leo asked where you were. He waited by the fence until the second half ended. He was the only kid whose dad wasn't there. "We need to talk when you get back." Mark felt a cold, heavy weight sink into his stomach. He had missed his son's soccer playoff game. It wasn't because he didn't care. He loved Leo more than anything. It wasn't because he was busy with a crisis. He had simply lost the time. He had fallen into a hole in his own mind and didn't realize the sun had gone down. This was the regulation gap. Mark knew he should be at the game. He knew how much it meant to his son. But there was a broken wire between knowing and doing. As he sat there, the shame spiral started. I'm a terrible father. I'm a bad husband. I'm going to lose my job because I can't even finish a simple report. Why can't I just be normal? Why do I keep doing this? Mark wasn't lazy. He worked harder than almost anyone he knew. He stayed late. He took on the hardest projects. But he felt like he was running a race on a treadmill. He was exhausted, but he wasn't moving forward. His wife was starting to look at him with pity instead of pride. His boss had recently put him on a performance improvement plan. Mark felt like he was a broken engine. He thought that if he just tried harder, he could fix it. But trying harder is what got him into this dark office at 7:30 p.m. He didn't need more effort. He needed a different set of tools. The truth about your brain. If Mark's story feels like your story, there is something you need to hear right now. This is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. For years, we have been told that ADHD is a kid's problem. We were told that it's about being hyper and jumping off the walls. But for an adult man, ADHD looks different. It looks like a cluttered garage you can't bring yourself to clean. It looks like Sunday scaries that start on Friday afternoon because you know you forgot something important. It looks like a roommate phase in your marriage because your partner is tired of being your manager. Your brain is physically wired differently. The front part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, is like the air traffic control tower of a busy airport. In a typical brain, the tower is well staffed. It tells the planes when to land, when to take off, and which one should wait on the runway. In your brain, the tower is understaffed. The planes are all trying to land at the same time. The focus plane is crashing into the laundry plane. The work deadline plane is stuck in a holding pattern. The play with the kids plane is running out of fuel. This isn't a character flaw. It's biology. But here is the good news. Just like George Schuster in the 1908 race, you can learn to navigate. You don't have to change your engine. You don't have to become a farmer who loves filing papers and sitting in meetings. You just need to build a system of external brakes and navigation tools that work for the brain you actually have. The transformation. This book is the manual for that system. It is not a book about managing a disorder. It is a book about mastering a machine. Right now, you might feel like a man who is brilliant but brittle. You are great in a crisis, but you fail at daily consistency. You are the underachiever who knows he should be leading the company but is instead struggling to pay the electric bill on time. By the time you finish this book, you will be a calibrated navigator. You will understand exactly why your brain does what it does. You will stop the shame spiral before it starts. You will have a set of external brain tools that remember your keys, your deadlines, and your anniversaries for you, so your mind is free to do what it does best, create and solve problems. You will become reliable, a man whose word carries weight. When you say you'll be there at 5 o'clock, you'll be there at 4:55. Clear, the brain fog will lift. You will know exactly what to do next, without the crushing weight of overwhelm. Productive, you will stop busy working and start impact working. You will reach the professional potential you've been hiding from. Stable, you will learn to tame the volcano of your emotions. You will be a calm, present partner and father. I know this is possible because I have seen it happen for thousands of men. I have seen it in the science, and I have seen it in history. Some of the greatest men to ever live, men like Leonardo da Vinci and Theodore Roosevelt, struggled with the exact same racing thoughts and paralysis that you feel today. They didn't cure their ADHD. They built systems to channel it. Why trust this path? We aren't going to talk about trying harder. We aren't going to use colorful planners that you'll throw in the trash in 3 days. We are going to focus on executive functioning strategies. These are proven science-based methods to offload the work your brain struggles with. We are going to look at the interest-based nervous system. We are going to explore why you can focus on a video game for 6 hours, but can't focus on a bill for 6 minutes. We are going to use the B story of Mark Henderson to show you exactly how these strategies look in real life. You will follow Mark as he leaves that dark office, goes home to that difficult conversation with Sarah, and begins the slow, steady process of rebuilding his life. You will see him fail. You will see him get frustrated. But you will also see him win. The roadmap ahead. Our journey together will follow a specific path. We are going to build your navigation system, piece by piece. First, we will look at the environment. We live in a world designed to distract us. We'll learn why the modern world feels like a minefield and how to hunter-proof your life. Second, we will dive into the 5 pillars of the executive brain. You will take a diagnostic to see which parts of your air traffic control tower need the most help. Is it your memory? Your emotional control? Your ability to switch tasks? Once we know where the broken wires are, we can fix them. Third, we will master the art of focus and time. You will learn why you are time blind and how to use visual tools to finally see the day. We will learn how to enter flow states on purpose, rather than waiting for them to happen by accident. Fourth, we will tackle the hidden side of ADHD, emotions. We will talk about why a small piece of criticism feels like a punch in the chest. We will learn how to tame the reactive giant so you can save your relationships. Fifth, we will build your external brain. This is the most important part. You will learn how to stop trusting your internal memory and start using a vault for your ideas and tasks. This is the secret that allowed Leonardo da Vinci to change the world despite his constant distractions. Finally, we will look at the ADHD advantage. Once your brakes are working, we will show you how to let that Ferrari engine roar. You will learn how to use your hyper-focus as a superpower in your career and your life. The 1908 Great Race didn't end in New York. It ended 169 days later in Paris. George Schuster pulled his mud-covered Thomas Flyer onto the pavement of the Champs-Élysées. He was exhausted. His car was held together by wire and grit. But he had done it. He had navigated the impossible. Your Paris is waiting for you. It's a life where you feel in control. It's a life where your wife trusts you, your kids look up to you, and you wake up without that knot of anxiety in your chest. The engine is already running. You have the power. You just need the map. Let's begin. 1. Why does the modern world feel like a minefield? A large wooden panel sits in a dusty workshop in Florence, Italy. It is 10 feet wide and 10 feet tall. The year is 1481. If you run your hand over the surface, you feel the grain of the poplar wood and the gritty texture of the white primer. Across the board, thin charcoal lines show a crowd of people, some horses, and a crumbling building. At first glance, it looks like the start of a masterpiece. But if you look closer, you see the problem. The faces have no eyes. The horses have no skin. The stairs lead to nowhere. This is the adoration of the Magi, and the man who started it was perhaps the most brilliant person to ever live, Leonardo da Vinci. The monks who paid for this painting were not happy. They had given Leonardo money, wood, and time. They wanted a beautiful scene for their church. Instead, they got a ghost of a painting. Leonardo had spent months drawing the background. He studied how light hit the dust. He drew dozens of sketches of how a horse's leg muscles move. He became so interested in the how and the why that he never got around to the what. Eventually, he just stopped. He left the massive, unfinished board in a corner and moved to a different city to start something else. He wasn't lazy. He was working 18 hours a day. He wasn't stupid, he was a genius. He simply had a brain that was built for the chase, not the finish line. 500 years later, many men feel exactly like Leonardo did in that workshop. They have the Ferrari engine for a brain, but they are trying to drive it through a world designed for tractors. The Great Misunderstanding. Most people believe a very simple lie about the male brain. They think that if a man is smart and he cares about his family, he will naturally be able to sit at a desk, answer emails, and remember to pick up milk on the way home. They think that paying attention is a choice, like picking a shirt out of a closet. This is the myth of the deficit. People hear the term ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and they think it means you don't have enough attention. They think your tank is empty. The truth is the exact opposite. If you have an ADHD brain, you don't have a lack of attention. You have too much of it. You are paying attention to the bird outside the window, the hum of the refrigerator, the itch on your ankle, and the 3 different ideas for a new business at the same time. Your brain is a sponge in a world made of water. You are soaked. The problem isn't the amount of attention. It's the regulation of that attention. Think about a radio. A normal brain can tune into one station, let's say doing the taxes, and turn the volume up while everything else fades into the background. An ADHD brain has the dial broken. You are hearing the rock station, the country station, the news, and the static all at the same volume. When people tell you to just focus, it is like telling a man in a room with 10 people shouting at him to just listen to the guy in the corner. You want to. You are trying to. But the shouting won't stop. The interest-based nervous system. Why did Leonardo leave that painting unfinished? It wasn't because he stopped caring. It was because his brain stopped giving him the chemicals he needed to do the work. Scientists have found that most people have an importance-based nervous system. When a boss says a report is important, their brain releases a little bit of a chemical called dopamine. This chemical is like fuel. It helps them sit down and do the work, even if the work is boring. They do it because it is important, or because there is a reward at the end. But the ADHD brain doesn't work that way. It has an interest-based nervous system. For a man with ADHD, importance is not enough to turn the key in the ignition. You can know that a task is vital. You can know that your job depends on it. You can know that your wife will be upset if you don't do it. But if the task is not interesting, your brain simply does not provide the fuel. Instead, the ADHD brain only turns on for 4 specific things. You can remember them with the letters ICNU. Interest. Is it fascinating? Does it make you want to know more? Challenge. Is it a puzzle? Is it hard in a way that feels like a game? Novelty. Is it new? Have you never seen it before? Urgency. Is there a fire? Is the deadline in 10 minutes? This is why you can spend 6 hours researching the history of Roman concrete, interest and novelty, but you can't spend 10 minutes filling out a health insurance form, boring and routine. It's why you are a hero in a crisis at work, urgency and challenge, but you can't remember to put your socks in the hamper, the opposite of all 4. Leonardo da Vinci was the king of the interest-based nervous system. He would get obsessed with the way a dragonfly wings its way through the air. He would fill pages of his notebooks with drawings of water flowing around a rock. But the moment he figured out the secret, the moment the interest was gone, he found it almost physically painful to finish the project. He once wrote in his diary, "Tell me if anything ever was done, tell me, tell me." He was talking to himself. He was frustrated. He felt the weight of 1,000 half-finished ideas. He had the greatest engine in human history, but he was struggling to keep it on the road. The hunter in the farmer's world. To understand why the modern world feels like a minefield, we have to look much further back than the 1400s. We have to look at our ancestors. Imagine 2 men living 10,000 years ago. We will call the first one the farmer, and the second one the hunter. The farmer is great at routines. He can get up every day at the same time. He can look at a field of wheat and notice the tiny changes over months. He is patient. He doesn't get distracted by a bird flying past, because he knows he has to keep weeding the row. This man is the hero of the village, because he ensures there is food for the winter. The hunter is different. He is restless. He is always looking at the horizon. His eyes move constantly. When a leaf rustles in the bushes, he notices it instantly. He doesn't focus on one thing, he monitors everything. He is impulsive. If he sees a track, he follows it right now. He doesn't wait. In the wild, the hunter is a genius. His distractibility is actually hyper-awareness. It keeps the village safe from predators. His impulsivity is actually quick action. It puts meat on the table. But then the world changed. We stopped living in the woods and started living in cities. We invented schools, offices, cubicles, and 9-to-5 schedules. We built a world that is perfect for farmers. The modern world asks us to sit still for 8 hours. It asks us to follow a long list of boring steps. It asks us to ignore the rustle in the bushes, which is now a notification on your phone. If you are a man with ADHD, you are a hunter who has been forced to work on a farm. There is nothing wrong with your brain. You are just using a tool designed for the wilderness to try and file your taxes. The minefield isn't you. The minefield is the environment. Every time your phone pings, every time a meeting goes too long without a point, every time you have to do a repetitive task, a mine goes off. It drains your energy and leaves you feeling like a failure. The Ferrari engine with bicycle brakes. Think about a high-performance race car. It has a massive engine that can go 200 miles per hour. It is a work of art. Now, imagine that same car has the brakes from a rusty old bicycle. What happens when you try to drive that car? You can go fast. You can win the straightaways. But when a curve comes up, you can't slow down. You crash. You aren't crashing because the engine is bad. You are crashing because the stopping power doesn't match the going power. This is the ADHD man's life. Your going power is incredible. When you get excited about a project, you can work harder and faster than anyone you know. This is called hyperfocus. It is your superpower. You can see connections other people miss. You can solve problems that leave others stuck. But your stopping power, your ability to say no to a distraction, or stop a task to go to dinner, or wait before saying something angry, is weak. This leads to a very specific kind of pain. You know you are capable of great things. You have felt the engine roar. But you keep ending up in the ditch. You forget the anniversary. You miss the deadline. You spend 3 hours looking at expensive watches online when you were supposed to be writing a proposal. After years of this, you stop blaming the brakes and start blaming the driver. You tell yourself you are lazy. You tell yourself you don't care enough. You start to feel like a broken engine. A Saturday morning in Seattle. Mark Henderson sat at his kitchen table in Seattle. It was Saturday morning, and the house was quiet, but his mind was screaming. In front of him was a cold cup of coffee and a half-eaten piece of toast. Across the table, his wife, Sarah, was moving around the kitchen. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't even talking. She was just quiet. And to Mark, that silence felt heavier than any shout. The night before, Mark had missed his son Leo's soccer playoff game. It wasn't because he forgot. He had put it in his calendar. He had told Leo he would be there. He had even bought a new orange slice container for the team. But at 4:30 p.m., a small problem had popped up in a technical report at work. It was a minor formatting issue, something that didn't really matter. But Mark's hunter brain had seen a rustle in the bushes. He became obsessed with fixing it. He went into hyperfocus. The world outside his computer screen disappeared. The sounds of the office faded. The passage of time stopped existing. When he finally looked up, it was 7:15 p.m. The game was over. His phone had 6 missed calls from Sarah. "I just don't get it, Mark," Sarah said now, finally breaking the silence. She didn't look angry, she looked exhausted. "You're the smartest man I know. You manage multi-million-dollar projects. How can you just forget your son? I didn't forget, Mark said. His voice was thick with shame. I was working. I got stuck. You always get stuck, she said softly. It's like you're a ghost in this house. You're here, but you're not really here. You're always somewhere else, chasing some new idea or some tiny problem. Mark wanted to explain the Ferrari engine. He wanted to tell her about the bicycle brakes. He wanted to tell her that he felt like he was drowning in a sea of importance that his brain couldn't process. But he didn't have the words yet. He just felt like a failure. He was a 38-year-old man who felt like a child who couldn't follow directions. He was a senior project manager who couldn't manage his own afternoon. He felt like a broken machine. Dismantling the shame. If you feel like Mark, the first thing you need to do is stop the shame spiral. The shame spiral works like this: you make a mistake, you're late, you forget a task. You feel bad. Because you feel bad, your brain's fuel, dopamine, drops even lower. Because your fuel is low, you find it even harder to do the next task. You fail again. You feel even worse. Eventually, you stop trying. You decide that this is just who I am. But look back at Leonardo da Vinci. Was he a failure? No. He was a man who needed a better system for his hunter brain. He eventually learned to use notebooks to externalize his thoughts. He learned to work on multiple things at once, so his need for novelty was met without him having to quit his job. He didn't change his brain. He changed how he handled it. You are not a broken farmer. You are a calibrated hunter. The reason the world feels like a minefield is not that you are clumsy. It is that you are walking through a landscape that wasn't built for your feet. To survive and thrive, you don't need to try harder. If trying harder worked, you would already be the most successful man on earth, because you have been trying 10 times harder than everyone else just to stay level. What you need are systems. You need to upgrade your bicycle brakes so they can handle your Ferrari engine. You need to build an external brain so you don't have to rely on your internal one. The path forward. In the chapters coming up, we are going to look at the 5 pillars of the executive brain. These are the specific gears in your mind that are currently slipping. We will talk about how to fix them one by one. We will learn how to visualize time so it doesn't just disappear. We will learn how to handle the volcano of emotions that comes when you feel criticized or overwhelmed. We will look at how to build a home and an office that work with your distractions instead of against them. We will see how to rebuild the trust that has been eroded in your relationships. The goal isn't to turn you into a farmer. The world has enough farmers. The world needs hunters. It needs your creativity, your ability to see patterns, and your energy. It just needs you to arrive on time and remember the milk. Mark Henderson sat at that table and made a choice. He realized that trying harder was a trap. He needed a new map. He started to look at his phone, not for a distraction but for a tool. He began to wonder, what if I'm not lazy? What if I'm just using the wrong manual for my brain? His journey was just beginning. The mines were still there, but for the first time he was starting to see where they were buried. Leonardo da Vinci never finished the Adoration of the Magi. It still sits in a museum in Italy, a beautiful unfinished mess. But Leonardo didn't let that stop him. He went on to paint the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. He designed flying machines and studied the human heart. He didn't become a finisher by changing who he was. He became a legend by learning how to steer his own mind. It is time for you to do the same. 2. The 5 pillars of the executive brain. Imagine 2 men, Jim and Dave. Both are 40 years old. Both are talented, kind, and have big dreams for their families. On a Tuesday morning, both men receive an email from their boss. The email says a major project is due by Friday. Jim feels a jolt of energy. He knows he can do this. He sits down at his desk and starts typing. 5 minutes later, he hears a bird outside. He looks out the window. That reminds him he needs to buy birdseed.